right, good morning and thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. I am Veronica Dan Ipoy. I'm not here alone. I have Ibrahim Shita joining me this morning. Shita, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
It's Friday, we'll say thank God it's
Thank
Friday.
God it's
but
Friday,
then it's
okay.
just a suspension.
Right.
Like Monday, you resume work again. So everyone,
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
Interesting. But unfortunately, we are starting on a sad note this morning, talking about Professor Lai Oso, who passed in the course of the weekend. He was reported to have gone to Delta State University as an examiner, external examiner for the mass communications department. And he was on his way back to town when he was said to have, his car had, plunged into the river. It was around the Ogun State axis where his car plunged into the river. A really sad incident. And we have been seeing a body of texts with regards to him from his colleagues and students, people whom he impacted while he was alive. It goes to show the kind of person he was, a very good man, a repertoire of knowledge, a lot of persons, speaking to the fact that his demise is a huge blow to the media industry, especially when we're talking about institutions. Absolutely.
One of his beneficiaries, one of the students, he taught directly or indirectly, because most of the lecturers that taught me, he taught them himself. I read a lot of his books,
Absolutely.
So it's just like what we say in mass communication, that in communications generally, that when an old man dies in Africa, it's actually a Senegalese proverb. An old man dies in Africa is like a library set ablaze. But then this time around, a communication, Lai Oso, his death is just like a library of communication set ablaze, because he's a walking communicator. He was a walking communicator.
Yeah.
When it comes to talking about mass communication in Nigeria, communications generally in Nigeria, he was really, really there.
Yeah.
He authored so many books. For instance, Voice of the Voiceless, a practical guide to mass media. He also authored a book, Mass Media and Society in Nigeria. He authored another book publishing by lecturers that taught me, Biobaku and Oshunbiyi, who is a legend in advertising. So Professor Lai Oso, was a phenomenon, because, whenever he talks, whenever he teaches, you will be like, oh, this is a communicator, really talking. Even our producer is one of the lecturers. We're having a conversation this morning about him and some of the things that he did while he was in his class. But he's one lecturer that whenever he enters the class, he didn't come with his books. He taught directly from his head. And these are communicators. Talking about mass communication, there are some schools now that when they talk about students, when they talk about the practice or practices in mass communication, they will say, okay, they will teach everything together, advertising. But it was one of the champions of unbundling of mass communication.
Yes.
And then you are talking about broadcasting, journalism, PR, advertising, book publishing, graphics communication, print and the broadcast media. So it's really, really sad. A lot of people have been, sharing encomiums, have been, expressing their condolences and different experiences and all of that. So
he was just 67 years old.
Yes, 67.
So he's still very young, and it's just a sad development. That, but the joy for me is the fact that he poured himself
absolutely
into a lot of persons. He made impact. That footprint is there. He's etched his name in the minds of a lot of persons who went through the aspect of journalism, studying that as a course, either in any higher institution that he lectured, and whether he didn't lecture there, he lectured some persons who lectured in some of these institutions. So you can still feel his imprint one way or the other. So we can say that he's not necessarily dead, although he's dead,
of course.
But his memory will forever linger in the minds of
it's just like if you want to be remembered, you can do three things according to what they say, like publish a book, plant a tree, and also have children that are pious, who always remember you for good, you know, who always do things, live after you when you're gone. So his books will always be there, definitely always be there. Some of these books, you know, they have revised edition. Some, when you read them, even when they are revised, it's as if you know, imagine you understanding the concept of communication. That's the reason, that's why we're here. That's what we are doing here. In anything you do, they will say, an American saying will say, man cannot not communicate. Whether you're quiet, you're communicating. Whether you're talking, you're communicating. Even when you're sleeping, you're actually talking.
Action speaks louder than words.
Louder than words,
as
you
it is
understand?
often said. So whatever you do,
things.
you're communicating.
Absolutely.
As humans, we can't do without communication, and that's basically what it is. But